Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on your retirement savings. We're breaking down a financial planner's perspective on some of the hidden risks that might be hiding in plain sight inside those accounts we all know and love, like your 401k and your IRA.
So, let's just kick things off with a pretty provocative question from our source material. Is that nest egg you're so carefully building actually a ticking tax time bomb? I know it's a jarring thought, but it really gets to the very heart of what we're going to explore today.
And look, let's be super clear. That advice isn't wrong. Not at all. For decades, the mantra has been to max out these accounts, and for a really good reason. They are incredibly powerful, absolutely essential tools for building wealth. But the real question is, are they the entire plan? Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to tackle the big myth about these accounts. Then we'll dive into three major potential pitfalls: that unseen tax bill, the market risk gamble, and something called the flexibility trap. And then we'll wrap it all up by looking at how you can build a smarter, more resilient plan. All right, first up, this is the core concept from our source. I want you to think of your 401k or your IRA like a really great hammer in a toolbox. It's fantastic for what it does, but just having a hammer doesn't mean you have a blueprint for the house you're trying to build. Relying on it alone is a problem. Now, let's get into the first big issue, and it's a doozy: taxes. You see, deferring your taxes, which is the main selling point of a traditional 401k, is not the same as avoiding your taxes. It's a classic pay me now or pay me later scenario. And you know what? Later can be full of surprises.
This really breaks down that fundamental choice perfectly. With a Roth account, you bite the bullet and pay the taxes up front on the money you put in. The reward? All your growth, and more importantly, all your withdrawals in retirement are 100% tax-free. With a traditional account, you get that nice tax break today, but you're basically kicking the tax can down the road, promising to pay taxes on every single dollar you take out later.
And this whole pay later thing isn't just about Uncle Sam. You've got to think about state taxes too, because they can take a serious bite. The source we're looking at uses Georgia as an example, where retirees could be looking at a state income tax of over 5% on their retirement income. It's a huge reminder that no matter where you live, you have to factor in those state-level taxes. And here's the real kicker. You don't always get to decide when you pay those taxes. Starting at age 73, the IRS shows up with something called required minimum distributions, or RMDs. They literally force you to start taking money out of your accounts and paying taxes on it, whether you actually need that money or not. You know, these forced withdrawals can set off a really nasty domino effect. So that RMD might be just enough to push you into a higher federal tax bracket. Then that higher income can trigger massive surcharges on your Medicare premiums. And to top it off, thanks to a rule change a few years ago, your kids who inherit your IRA might be forced to drain the whole thing in just 10 years, creating a potential tax nightmare for them. It's a triple threat. Okay, so that's the tax problem. Let's move on to the next potential crack in the foundation. This is all about how relying completely on the stock market can be a massive gamble, especially when you can least afford to lose. What you're seeing here is a visual of a huge danger that financial nerds call sequence of returns risk. But what it really means is that your timing is everything. If the market is flying high right when you retire, you're golden. But if you get hit with a big market crash right as you start taking money out, you're forced to sell your investments when they're down, and that can permanently damage your portfolio's ability to last for the rest of your life. And that brings us to the bottom line, right? Unlike your parents' or grandparents' old-school pension plan that promised a steady check every single month for life, your 401k or IRA makes you no such promise. Your income is tied directly to the wild whims of the market. All right, on to our third challenge: flexibility. Or maybe the lack of it. I mean, these accounts are specifically designed to lock your money away for decades, which is good. But what happens when life happens? You know? When a real emergency pops up and you need access to your own savings. Well, this slide just lays out the painful reality. If you need to get your hands on that money before you're 59 and a half, you face a brutal triple hit. First, you've got to pay ordinary income taxes on whatever you take out. Then, on top of that, the federal government slaps you with an extra 10% penalty. It is a very expensive way to get to your own cash. And the source brings up a really tough scenario. Just imagine needing to pay for long-term care, maybe for a nursing home. If you have to liquidate your IRA to cover those bills, you're not only draining your life savings, but you're also creating a huge immediate tax bill. hitting you financially at the absolute worst possible moment, when you are at your most vulnerable.
Okay, so we've laid out some pretty serious potential problems here. The big question is, what can you actually do about it? So let's look at some of the strategies our source suggests for patching up those cracks and building a much stronger retirement blueprint.
This table really lays out the whole strategy. The idea is not to ditch your 401k, but to build around it, to protect it. To solve for market volatility and create a reliable income stream, the source points to things like annuities that can give you a guaranteed paycheck for life. To handle that future tax bomb, it suggests things like strategically converting traditional funds to a Roth over several years, or using those RMDs to fund something like life insurance, which can then pass on to your heirs completely tax-free. And for that massive potential cost of long-term care, well, there are specific insurance policies designed just for that, so you don't have to burn through your entire nest egg.
And really, it all comes back to this one powerful idea from our source. It's our ultimate takeaway. These accounts are an essential tool, maybe the most important one you have, but they are not, by themselves, a complete plan. A real plan has to account for taxes, for risk, and for all of life's curveballs. So we're going to leave you with this to think about. What does your blueprint look like? How are you planning to solve for the challenges of taxes, of market risk, and the very real need for flexibility? What's the right mix of tools to make sure the financial house you're building is truly built to last?